ぴょんぴょんとはどんな動きだ
Nate figures that Sammo Hung will eventually try to replace Jackie Chan with a robot. I mean, his acting's pretty close to one anyways. Following up on the last episode, Brao had returned empty-handed, but Yaiba didn't mind too much, as he could sense that Tsurugi had come into contact with Sora, meaning that they could kill two birds with one stone and capture two sword eyes simultaneously. Thus, Brao offered to try again, but Gardos had other plans.
下々の者どもが住まう町むさ苦しき場所に向かうのはこのガルド
Well, this is the guy who enjoys ruling over a desert full of skull people, so it's not exactly out of his element. But yeah, of course they were just adding more to this dude's sus points. Back with the Sword Eyes of Light, Sora had finished up Bringer's repairs, and to make sure he was good, they decided to do some tests.
もっと早く
Faster. Faster. Way faster.
So, after doing enough squats to satisfy Moonshine Animations for a few months, Sammo Hung gave his seal of approval to his students' work. Granted, it wasn't that hard of a job, as they had plenty of templates to work off of, with the castle having discarded all other Bringer models after the production of the Stingers.
仲間がこんな目にあって平気なのかよ。
必要がなくなれば廃棄されるの
And now, this show is officially better than any of the Terminator movies after 2. Even better than Dark Fate? Yes! Yeah, aside from the actual card game, Bringer's arc throughout the series was definitely one of my favorite elements, with him still trying to recognize his own value beyond just being an old model that was taken off the assembly line. It's good world building that can come from just one character, as it does tie into the show's larger themes of destiny and a person's place in the world, as the so-called progression of technology and culture starts to take us in less humane directions. Later, Sammo Hung was about to talk about another sword brave, but as it just so happened, the baddies decided to attack. And while he was still sus as all hell, Gardos did at least show a slightly more gray side when he talked down one of the lead droids, Zardo, for needlessly terrorizing Sora's village. Then again, maybe he also did so they could measure the abilities of the Sword Eyes, because, again, let's not forget what the show is trying to sell. Anyways, Sora accepted battle after Zardo kept on bad-mouthing the droid he had just repaired. With that, Zardo became the first purple deck user for this series, the color of course representing more nefarious elements like darkness and poison, with even his first spirits exhibiting this. Dark Daemonbolt's effect allowed it so that upon destruction, it could also take down a low-cost spirit with them, so Sora simply didn't block either of their attacks. This would also apply for the evil droid's key spirit, Dark Scorpione, whose effect would force an opponent to discard a card from their hand if they blocked its attack. Thus Sora just kept on tanking these attacks, as if anything else, it was giving him more cores to work with that he could use to summon his key spirit Zoldanork, who with his effect managed to mill 9 of Zarato's cards. The villain tried to go on the defense, but it didn't matter, as Sora had everything he needed to end the game without even attacking his life.
Nexus 光灯る三叉灯台を配置
Nexus are basically like permanent spells in Yu-Gi-Oh! In that they're spells that remain on the field and provide beneficial effects. In this case, the Lighthouse essentially had Shining Dragon's effect, which let it summon Sora's Sword Brave alongside it. Additionally, the Maelstrom had an effect that could untap the spirit that it was attached to by tapping a Nexus. This allowed Sora to attack twice, and thus utilize Zoldanork's effect twice, which with all of the additional charges will allow it to mill 12 cards with each attack, totaling 24, which plus the 9 from the previous turn, and all of Zardo's regular draws left him with... With that, even though Sora hadn't even touched his opponent's life, he just did the Kentril thing and ended his turn, forcing Zarato to declare a deck out and an automatic loss. Legit, decking out my opponents were some of the most satisfying victories I've ever experienced when playing TCGs, so Sora does have probably my second favorite deck in the show. The first will be for another day. With that, the episode ended with the Sword Eyes going their separate ways, with Sora wishing Tsurugi the best after acknowledging the love between him and his droid. Though, and Sammo Hung also revealed that he had heard rumors about a green sword while hitting on a lady, which was unintentionally very topical around the time of this episode. I mean, sure, he was at least hitting on someone his own age, but whether or not he was cheating is never confirmed, so who knows? But yeah, our two leads travel to the mountains to try and find this green sword that had apparently been forged by a very unsocial swordsmith. And yeah, kind of cleverly, they never confirm which of the two green sword braves they were dealing with. And at first it seemed like it was going to go to the Sword Eyes of Light side with the new ninja character, as even the title of the episode suggested it. But then Gordy also confirmed that he didn't have a sword yet. Thus, this did lead to a rather clever twist that didn't come out of nowhere, and yet did an effective job at fooling most viewers who weren't aware of the booster sets that had come out at the time, but more on that later. As for that ninja character who actually understood the concept of camouflage,
ソードブレイブは拙者がいただくでござる
well, you can't really blame the dude. I mean, he's just enjoying the fact that he's not a vending machine anymore. But yeah, they didn't have some great first impressions as Hagakure tried to make a competition of who could get to the sword brave first. They did start to become friends after they saved each other from falling off a rope bridge, but even after Tsurugi offered to work together, the young shinobi still wanted to do this on his own, as he has own goals in mind as he wanted all the swords, including the Sword of Judgment.
裁きの真剣を手に入れれば手っ取り早く上級忍者になれる
それ鶴じゃん
Yeah, still a better conclusion than the Four Shinobi Wars. They met the swordsmith,
わしは誰にも愛とうない。
hipster Gula, who I guess remains as weak as ever to Precure, as he was coerced by Kizakura from out of nowhere. As a result, they almost attained the sword brave, but Gordy showed up, and as I hinted at, the sword turned out to be on the side of darkness. And in order to get this little piece of cardboard, they ended up burning down much of the surrounding forest. Ooh, commentary. And as a retaliation, Tsurugi immediately tried to challenge the villain, who admittedly was kind of charming with how much of a narcissistic ham he was. He also had a green deck that was very similar to Cornell's on a base level, except Gordy had some fancy rare cards in his.
ディアボリカンマンティスをシャー
And while it didn't do much at first, he managed to make it both strong enough to resist Tsurugi's usual shining combo, and even take out the dragon thanks to his new card.
フレッシュタイミング石田影の新作召喚
This wasn't our case of swift summoning playing a factor, as Tsurugi had attacked believing his dragon could defeat the defending bug, but since Usaba Kagero was also a brave, it could directly equip itself to his spirit and win the battle. From there, using Diabolical Mantis' rush effect, Gori managed to draw another Dark Machi and summon it through swift summoning. And to top it all off, his spirit's effect allowed it so that itself and any swift summoners could deal 1 extra damage each. So, even though Tsurugi still had all 5 of his lives at the start of the turn, he was OTK'd. They didn't try to capture our hero, but his new ally was impressed by his love for the forest and managed to drive them away. And with that, the episode ended with Gula revealing that he was actually Kanata, Justice Tachibana the whole time.
What a twist!
The theme of these 2 episodes were more about promoting the latest booster pack that had come out at the time, and in that sense, they did a really good job, while also progressing the plot a little. It's always going to be an inevitability that card game anime has to show off their goods, but as long as they make it look fun, and maybe even provide some characterization, I see no reasons to complain. Not to mention, come on, who wouldn't want to see the face of somebody you just decked out or OTK'd? That's the kind of stuff that makes you really want to buy a pack or 2. Interestingly, both Gordy and Sora's game-winning decks could be constructed entirely using the BS19 set that had just been released at the time. Thus, showing them off here not only acts as a good tutorial for newbies who want to see how they could win with these decks, but of course also makes them want to build them. It's a fun factor to card game anime that I always appreciate, even though they are needlessly expensive investments. That aside, it also helps to write some good and fun characters to use them. Sora managed to show off his dedication to his craft and his cheesy belief in love, while Gordy managed to show his fun theatrics. Yeah, right now they're not major standouts or anything, but they are at least building these characters. Hell, even the currently non-combatant Sword Eyes in Kizakura and Hagakure got some time to show how they were slowly coming to join Tsurugi in his quest. And on top of that, some good world building with the reveal of the fate of the Bringer line and Tachibana's introduction, and overall, the show continues to have a pretty well-flowing narrative and plot progression through, again, all of the advertisements. Hey, if anything, at least this deck out makes a lot more sense than whatever Yugi did with Osiris. With October quickly approaching, we are planning on doing a few videos to celebrate the month. You can probably guess what sort of videos we're going to do just based off of some of these clips, but needless to say, we got plenty of material to work with for the spooky month. Look forward to it starting very soon. And until then, though, farewell for now, my friends. And if you excuse me, I'm gonna go buy a Yu-Gi-Oh deck for the first time in years. It has this card in it, and that's all that really needs to be said.